If Disney was any more racist or ignorant, they'd be Joe Biden. What's up, everyone? Jared from Patriots and Pop Culture here. I had to take a little bit of a break from all of the craziness that happened last week with the extreme amount of wokeness between Marvel and DC. I decided to take a couple days off from doing this, get some work done on the house. We've been remodeling it for about a year. Not exactly where I want to be at the moment, especially with the price of lumber tripling. But that's what we get whenever we have a president in Congress who doesn't really care about inflation. Anyway, we also went from having 0 cats in the house to 3 cats in the house. Don't ask. But it was time to go ahead and get started on making some more content for this channel. And over the past couple of days, all of the weird stuff that's gone on with Disney and their internal documents that got leaked and posted everywhere, specifically by Christopher Rufo. As you can see here from the 7th, Scoop, the Walt Disney Corporation claims that America was founded on systemic racism, encourages employees to complete a white privilege checklist, and separates minorities into racially segregated affinity groups. I've obtained internal documents that will shock you. To most people, this probably isn't that much of a surprise, considering how woke Disney has gotten, especially over the past 5 or 6 years. But let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what their internal document to their employees, or what they like to call cast members. Go ahead and see what it says. Honestly, I couldn't believe this was real, but apparently it is. The Walt Disney Company, reimagine tomorrow, where we all belong. What can I do about racism? An anti-racism discussion guide. Ally for Race Consciousness. Check out a couple of these bullet points right here. Recognize your colleagues are also processing the ways in which the pandemic is disproportionately affecting the black community. I wonder if that could be because they shut down businesses across every blue state in the country. I wonder if it's because over 100,000 small businesses had to close doors forever. And I wonder how many of those small businesses that had to close so that Walmart and Amazon could get all of the money, I wonder how many of those were black-owned businesses. I'm guessing quite a few, but apparently it's because of systemic racism. If you are feeling confused, shocked, or have recently awakened to systemic racism, recognize that this is probably not new to your black African-American colleagues. Avoid messages like, I can't believe this is happening, the murders of, and they go on and list a bunch of people. Notice that they don't mention people like Tony Tempa, who actually died probably a worse way than anybody else did, but they're going to leave him out of the conversation because he's white. They're going to leave out the double amount of white people that have been killed by cops, either armed or unarmed. None of that matters. They're going to cherry pick names, and you could go through and dissect almost every single one of these names and actually explain why most of them are justified. When people are resisting arrest, shooting at cops, trying to harm other people, none of that really seems to matter in the eyes of the woke left. Everything is about cops are bad, and if you're white, you're bad, and if you're a man, you're bad, and if you're straight, you're bad, and if you're a Christian, you're bad. Well, I guess I'm bad all the way around then, because I kind of fit all their little evil checkboxes. Whatever. Deepening your insight and knowledge is a critical first step to understanding the magnitude and complexity of the current state and building empathy to authentically connect with your colleagues. Take ownership of educating yourself about structural anti-black racism in the current and historical context. Opt for sources from black authors, journalists, and organizations. I'm not going to go out and seek out a black author just because it's a black author, a black journalist just because it's a black journalist. I'm going to look for context and truth. I don't give a shit about when people say my truth, because your truth doesn't mean anything. There's the truth and there's your opinions. So if you say my truth, you can just go ahead and get on right now. Do not rely on your black colleagues to educate you. This is emotionally taxing. Translation, most of these black colleagues that they're specifically talking about probably haven't actually gone through this systemic racism that they're trying to perpetuate on their white employees. So you can't ask them about it because they don't know. And then they'd have to try to go find it, and they're not going to do that. Systemic racism, if any of it is true, why don't we go ahead and take a look at who's running all of the systems? Who's running the education system in this country? The Democrats. Who's running the teachers' unions in this country, teaching about all of this stuff? The Democrats. Who is perpetuating this nonsense in Hollywood? A bunch of woke, leftist, Democrat actors, directors, producers, and studios who think that they're being righteous, when in actuality, they're saying a bunch of nonsense, trying to get people to act on emotion instead of actually looking at the truth. How can you affect change in your sphere of influence? Is there an opportunity to share your learning with other allies? I'm telling you right now, you say the word allies in this context, you're an idiot. And more bullet points of nonsense, just trying to keep the white guilt going. I have no white guilt. I'm not going to feel guilty or be sorry about the way that I was born, just like I don't expect gay people to apologize whenever they realize that their hormones have them attracted to the same sex. Whatever. No need to apologize. Looking for equity, not equality. And you can see equality, everybody has the same start. Equity, they want everybody to have the same finish, regardless of what they actually put into it. And of course, they have to use a child in a wheelchair to try to get this point across, because they are, in fact, trying to get you on an emotional level. What about the people who are trying to reach the same jobs, get the same scholarships, try out for the same teams? None of what they're trying to show here does anything for that. They want people to all finish the same. Well, that's not how sports works. That's not how applying and interviewing for a job works. That's not how the real life works. You have the same opportunities at the beginning of life. And if you choose to be a victim, well, that's on you. I know plenty of people who have come up from extreme poverty and have homes extremely nice, jobs they love, that pay them well, that they are respected in their field, and it has absolutely nothing to do with being poor when they were kids. They overcame that. And here's the leaked information on what was supposed to stay internal and what was supposed to be external. What the public was allowed to see and what the employees were allowed to see. And we're not supposed to be disclosing, but whenever you make a bunch of people at your job feel inadequate or not worthy, some of them are going to act out. And guess what? All of this information got leaked. And I don't feel sorry for you one bit. You did it to yourself, Disney. I can take a job with an affirmative action employer without having my coworkers on the job suspect that I got it because of my race. Well, affirmative action itself is racist, because it says that if you are not white, you can get a job despite the fact that you were not qualified to get the job. And what does that hurt? That hurts everybody else who has to work with that person who is not qualified to get it. I do not have to educate my children to be aware of systemic racism for their own daily physical protection. Ah, yeah, the LeBron James argument. My kids are afraid to walk down the street because they're going to be killed by cops. No. We don't have to educate our children on systemic racism because we don't teach systemic racism. And if we would stop teaching systemic racism, then it would go away. The only reason it still exists at all is because you keep talking about it and you want people to feel like they are victims. You want people to feel like they are targeted. Stats show the opposite of that and have shown the opposite of that for decades. But don't let the facts get in the way of your feelings. Well, the only people who ask a black or Hispanic person to speak for everybody in their quote-unquote racial group are leftist racists themselves. They don't want individuality. They want everybody to be in groups. And we'll get to those slides here in a minute as well. I will feel welcomed and normal in the usual walks of public life, institutions, and social. As does everybody else who does not perpetuate all of this racial bullshit. This is absolutely asinine. And Disney, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Disney needs to just go ahead and fuck themselves. Because this is absolutely retarded. If I have low credibility as a leader, I can be sure that my race is not the problem. I have not once looked at anybody else of any other race and said, oh, this person's lazy, therefore all people of the same skin complexion must also be lazy. But individualism has gone out the window whenever it comes to these crazy leftists. It's all about the collectivism. It's always been about the collectivism, and it will always be about the collectivism, which is why we have to get all of this nonsense out of our schools, out of our workplace, and most importantly right now, out of the media and out of Washington, D.C. I can worry about racism without being seen as self-interested or self-seeking. Yeah, I'm not even going to touch this one. That's just complete bullshit. If my day, week, or year is going badly, I need not ask of each negative episode or situation whether it had racial overtones. The only people who ask if their day is going badly because of racial overtones are people who believe everything is racist. Sometimes you just have a bad day. So you may be asking yourself about this white privilege checklist that they have. Well, let's take a look at that too. Self-assessment. How privileged are you? When it starts out with, I am white, I'm not reading the rest of this. You can go fuck yourself. Being white is not a privilege. Not in 2021. What can you do to make changes? Blah, blah, blah. Pause this, screenshot it. You can go to Twitter on Christopher Rufo's tweets and see all of this. I'm not going through all of this. This is absolute garbage. Priorities and timelines that perpetuate white supremacy culture. And as you can see, it just goes on and on and on. Point number 45, decolonize your bookshelf. How about no? How about I buy books for the content of the book itself and not because of who it was written by? Decolonize. Y'all are really getting into that Black Panther colonizer bullshit, aren't you? With how you racially segregate your employees. Like this right here. Wakanda at Disney. But it doesn't stop there. We've got HOLA for the Hispanic community. I'm honestly surprised that their white affinity group segregation wasn't called mayonnaise is spicy. Participate in reparations. One way is through this Facebook group. Remembering reparations isn't just monetary. Share your time, skills, knowledge, connections, etc. Read The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Better yet, get a group of friends together and read it like a book club would. The New Jim Crow? You do realize that Jim Crow laws were created by the people that you're defending in D.C., right? So in this collection of resources, obviously I did not go through all of them because it would make this video way too long. You can go read all of it yourself. It's everywhere now. Disney also recommends that employees read a series of how-to guides, including 75 things white people can do for racial justice. And your kids are not too young to talk about race. I mean, if you want to indoctrinate your kids, sure. They're never too young to talk about race. Just like, I guess, if you want to completely pollute their minds, you can go ahead and talk about men who want to chop off their balls. You can go ahead and start telling them all about that at 3. Or better yet, why don't you just go to a drag queen story time at a local library where you got a bunch of men dressed as women who still look like men twerking for elementary school kids and preschool kids. Or you can be a decent human being and let your kids be kids. But maybe that's asking too much of you. Actually, I'm sure it's asking too much of you because you're a bunch of idiots. The first article suggests that white employees should defund the police. Have you not seen what's gone on in Minnesota? Defunding the police doesn't work. Have you seen what's gone on in New York City? Defunding the police does not work. It's a stupid concept by a bunch of stupid people who are being followed by other stupid people. I'm sorry, but I support my cops. Are all of them great people? No. Are most of them great people? Yes. Do they protect my community? Absolutely. Participate in reparations, blah, blah, blah. Decolonize your bookshelf. A bunch of stupid crap. Don't gentrify neighborhoods. Don't gentrify neighborhoods. I'm pretty sure that it's the majority of the Section 8 housing done by the government that's done a pretty good job of keeping people of different skin colors in different neighborhoods. It has absolutely nothing to do with me going in and saying, I think I'm going to turn Harlem into a white area. No, I'm not a stupid leftist. Find and join a local white space and donate to anti-white supremacy work, such as your local Black Lives Matter chapter. You'd want me to go hang out with other white people all of the time instead of hanging out with my normal friends, which, by the way, my best friend, who I consider my brother, is Hispanic. So you don't want me hanging around him? You don't want me spoiling his kids because I'm white? Disney, have you lost your minds? Obviously, yes, you have lost your minds because you fired Gina Carano and you let Pedro Pascal get away with basically Twitter murder. Donate to an anti-white supremacy work like my local Black Lives Matter chapter? Well, I'm sorry. I don't live in an area that has a local Black Lives Matter chapter. And if I did, I sure as hell would not be donating to them because I do not donate to domestic terrorist groups where the owner bought 4 houses for a total of $3 million. Trained Marxist. Are we forgetting about that? All those riots that happened last year? Some of them are still going on to this day? Yeah, that was Black Lives Matter. I'm not donating to them. They can fuck off too. The second article encourages parents to commit to raising race consciousness in children. Racism is taught, plain and simple. For you to raise race-conscious children is you teaching them that race is important. Maybe if we stop teaching all of our kids that race is important, then maybe they would grow up and not care about somebody's skin tone. Maybe they wouldn't care about that kind of stuff if we stopped pushing it on our children. But that's asking too much for leftists, though, because they have to keep everybody divided. That's all they have, because they sure as hell don't win elections on policy. A graphic claims that babies show their first signs of racism at 3 months old, and that white children become strongly biased in favor of whiteness by age 4. This is why we can't have nice things, because we let idiots publish crap like this, regardless if this was internal or not. You have your entire company reading garbage like this. Disney has since deleted the entire thing and said that their words were being misused. When we can read all of it and we can see exactly what you're trying to say, nobody is changing the meaning of your internal documents. We are reading verbatim exactly what you said. You think everybody is racist because you're racist. Disney is a racist company. Disney has a long history of being a racist company. Disney thanked the province that holds Chinese Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. They thanked them in the end credits of Mulan because they filmed right next to it. They edit their movie posters for the Chinese. They shrunk Finn on a Star Wars poster to make him really small when he was the 3rd largest on the original Force Awakens poster. They put him really small down in the corner. The American poster for Black Panther showed Chadwick Boseman's face in the costume. He had his mask off. In the Chinese poster, they have his face covered because, in general, the Chinese Communist Party is racist. Therefore, they think that all of their people are racist, and they do not allow black people to be the central focus of a film, especially on the promotional material. It was, just a decade ago that they finally got a black princess in Disney. What was that, 2009? The Princess and the Frog? Yeah. Disney is the racist company. They claim to be the happiest place on earth when you go to Disneyland, Walt Disney World. They still claim that they are a studio that makes content for children, when most of the content that they produce has all of these little woke messages. And you expect me to believe that I should be okay with letting my kids watch most of the garbage that you put out now. You expect me to be okay to use my white privilege money in your theme parks, to use my white privilege money to go buy tickets for your movies, to go cash my white privilege check to go buy your shirts and your hats and your toys for myself as a collector, for my kids. No, not doing that anymore. These are the people who are in charge of Star Wars. These are the people who are in charge of the MCU. And we see where both of those are going. Star Wars is becoming woke trash. The MCU is becoming the MCU. Nothing but a bunch of identity politics and woke trash. That's all I got today. Like the video, share the video, comment, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell to get notifications, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as my kid says,
click on bell
to get notifications for upcoming videos.